What's up everyone, this is Tom of RedmanPie.com. Until the release of the new iPhone occurs, the iPhone 5 is the probably the leagued iOS competitor to the HTC One, so this is 10 reasons why the HTC One is better than the iPhone 5. Number 1, we just have the screen size and the resolution. Obviously this is a bit subjective to the person, but the HTC One has a resolution of 1080p, so that's 1920 by 1080, and it's a 4.7 inch screen versus a 4-inch screen on the iPhone 5. It's a higher pixel density, it looks a lot better, it's a lot sharper. The screen size is definitely going to appeal to some people, it might not to others, so again that's a personal thing. But as you can see from this clip here, the res really does show. You might not be able to discern it as well as you would in real life due to the fact that this is obviously kind of bottlenecking via your own screen or something like that, and my camera. But on the whole, images and video look a lot better on the HTC One from a sharpness perspective. But again, the iPhone 5 doesn't have a bad screen, it's just not as good. Another huge factor with these phones is the speakers. You get stereo speakers on the HTC One, which just sound amazing. So I'm going to shut up for a second and let you listen. We're going to do the iPhone 5 first, and then we'll switch over to the HTC One, both on full volume. Now again, I'm not 100% on how well that translates. Again, it's going to be kind of restricted by your own system. But just take my word for it, the speakers on the HTC One are absolutely fantastic. Next up, we have the fact that there's an infrared blaster in the top of the HTC One's power button, which basically means you can control your television with it. So if I just go into the remote application, the TV app, and the remote section of this app, I'm going to turn off or turn on my TV in the background that you see there. So you just set it up, it's a very simple process, and then you just you can press this off button that you see here after the screen that I stupidly thought turned it off, and then you just press that, and then you see as I press the off button, my TV turns off. Obviously the one on the right, it's not synced with, it's the TV on the left that it's actually syncing and controlling, and it turns on and off, and you can control the volume. You do a lot of stuff like that. Some people might call that a gimmick, but I've actually used it a few times and it's very useful. Another nice addition on the HTC One is the inclusion of Beats audio technology. Now this doesn't really mean too much, you know, Beats gets a lot of stick, but it's actually just improved audio for headphones and also just on the speakers as well. So when you play some music, for example, in the Play music store, whatever, basically it just includes the Beats audio, it switches the Beats audio on if you've got it enabled, and it just improves the sound of your music, and it's pretty much as simple as that. Next up, we have the weight of each phone. Now, the iPhone 5 is very light, and I'm not going to kind of go into the whole specifications of the lightness. It's very light. It feels to me personally bordering on cheap light. You don't really get a sense of substance. Now, this is where the HTC One pretty much hits the nail on the head for me. It is the perfect weight. For a 4.7-inch phone, it's a little bit heavier than the iPhone 5, but just because it's a little bit heavier, it feels just great. It's obviously bigger, therefore you have that extra kind of addition in your hand, but it also just has that little bit extra weight somewhere between the iPhone 4 and the iPhone 5. It's just really great, and the weight is pretty much perfect for me in a smartphone. Next is NFC compatibility in the HTC One. If you have any NFC tags lying around your house, you'll be able to use them with this phone, and also you do things such as mobile payments. All you have to do is just make sure that NFC is actually enabled within the settings, and then you'll be able to use these NFC tags or anything that's NFC compatible and do things such as dimming or brightening the screen and assign a lot of other tasks to your NFC tags. Next up we have speed of the actual phone itself, and the HTC One is a powerhouse with a Geekbench score of 2,991, and obviously benchmarks aren't everything. Real world experience is the most important, but if we switch over to the iPhone now, you'll see that it clocks in with a score of just 1,663. Now that's quite a good representation. Obviously iOS takes less power to run than Android, but the HTC One is incredibly smooth. The iPhone 5 definitely isn't slow, and it doesn't provide a bad user experience, but the HTC One really is catching up, especially with Android 4.2. Okay, so following on from that, and that actually transitions quite well, let's talk about OS customization. Android is an incredibly customizable operating system. I'm actually running Sense 5, but I'm using the Apex launcher, which essentially means that I can just control anything on my device. So I've got a battery widget on the home screen, you can change all of the widgets and stuff like that. I've actually got a custom keyboard installed with SwiftKey. There's just a ton of customization, which is the total opposite compared to iOS, which essentially, unless you jailbreak your device, which I actually have jailbroken my iPhone 5, but you can't do that for 6.1.3 or above, you've literally got almost zero customization. You have to deal with what Apple gives you. Next up we have app selection, and I'm including this because it's really a strength of iOS, but this is the fact that Android is no longer far behind in app selection. I rely on apps a lot of the time, and it's just interesting to see that I haven't been pretty much worried about any applications. The only two I'm missing is Tweetbot and the email client Mailbox, but I'm dealing with that. There are Gmail clients and stuff like that, which are all very, very good. So app selection is a really big plus now on the HTC One. And it's definitely not far behind iOS, which I always felt which was a problem with Android. And finally we have the price. The iPhone 5 comes in at $650 for an unlocked version, and the HTC One at $600, so you're saving $50 by going with a newer generation phone. There we have it, guys. That's my selection of things which the HTC does better than the iPhone 5. There's 10. If you have any, definitely just drop them down below. I mean, interesting to see if any of you use an HTC One or an iPhone 5 and you'd be thinking of switching. Don't forget to follow Redmond Pie and all of our social links down below. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't done already, and I will catch you next time.